All right, everyone, how are you? Welcome to this week's episode of our podcast. It's called Is Breakfast Included? Thanks for stopping by. On the show this week, Lisa and I sit down with my good friend Sebastien Grainger, lead singer, drummer of the band Death from Above 1979. He's also in a band called American Lips. We shared some past stories of me being on tour with them. We talked about the new American Lips album. We talked about videos. We talked about documentaries. We just talked about everything. It was a lot of fun catching up with my old friend, and it was a lot of fun hearing about the new music he's making. All in all, it was a great conversation. Let's check it out. All right, man. Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
My name is Sebastien Grainger, and I'm a songwriter and musician. I play in the band Death from Above 1979. And I played in another band called American Lips, but more known for DFA 1979 as the drummer and singer. And yeah, that's it. 20 plus years of rocking.
Rocking, man. Yeah, we're going to talk about DFA. We're going to talk about American Lips. We're going to talk about your procedure. And then, man, where did you grow up? For those of you who don't know.
Yeah, I grew up in Mississauga, Ontario, which is a suburb of Toronto in Canada. So yeah, just classic 80s, 90s suburban upbringing. You can imagine, it like E.T. without the E.T.
Well, that's cool alien.
Yeah.
Do you come from a musical family?
I mean, yes and no. They weren't professionals by any means, but there was always a lot of music being played in the house. The stereo was the kind of the focal point. The record collection was the focal point of the home. And I always found it surprising when I would go to other kids' houses and they didn't have a hi-fi. I thought that was so weird. Like, what do you guys do? Yeah, I thought everyone had a record player in their house. So there was always, lots of music playing. My dad traveled, he's British, and he traveled back to England a lot when we were kids, and he'd always bring stuff back from England, like whatever was kind of happening there, for example, the Proclaimers. I don't know if you remember that, like he picked that up in England way before it hit here. It didn't hit until I think there was a movie that used them in the soundtrack. And then it got popular in North America. Before that, it was totally unknown. And he had an ear for kind of like cool stuff, or stuff that was like gonna hit. And so he would often bring things back. Like in the 90s, he brought me back like jungle records and like, weird rave records and things like that. So, always bringing things back. He did play guitar a little bit, and there were guitars around the house. And yes, when we were very young, he found a Fender Tremolux amp, like a beautiful old tweed vintage Fender amp. Very rare amp, actually. He found it at a garage sale for $25. And so we still have that amp in the family, but he always had like an eye for it because he grew up around like early rock and roll, in England, sort of the second, first wave, really, second wave rock and roll, really, the 60s rock and roll. So the feedback loop from America, like once, the first generation after Elvis, basically. So he grew up around, literally the Who were the local pub band, the High Numbers. And so that kind of lore was always around. In fact, there was some footage of the Who in the early days playing as the High Numbers in this old venue in London. They were super young looking, and all this footage came out recently. And my dad is in that footage dancing, like a little clip of him as like a, 16, 17-year-old. And he went to see the Who in Toronto at the hockey arena a few years ago. And his girlfriend, he's got a lot of stories, tells a lot of stories, and people are kind of like used to him. Oh, John, always telling stories. And you'd always talk about, the Who and being around the Who and how Roger Daltrey stole his girlfriend, and everyone's like, yeah, cool, and then he went to see the show with his girlfriend, and they're playing, and then they, in front of whatever 10-20,000 people, they play this video in the background of them as young men playing, and then my dad shows up like on the jumbotron, behind, which was, I'm sure, for him just incredibly validating. But it's strange. Sometimes I'll just be scrolling on my phone, and that footage will come up, like just such a strange thing to see your father in full motion at that age. It's like 19, I don't know, 19, it's probably 1960.
Yeah.
1963, maybe 62.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So,
And then my mother loved singing and stuff and playing piano. So it was in the house, very much encouraged.
yeah. One of my favorite things when I first met you guys was your impressions. You would do impressions as your dad. When you told me he was from England, you'd always do it. Well, for the first week, and then it went away.
Yeah, then it faded away. Yeah, Jesse always remembers him. Jesse, who's the other guy in Death Room Above. He always remembers my father asking my father, like, "How are you, John?" And my father saying, "I'm full of fish," because I guess he just had a nice fish dinner. So.
So growing up with parents like that and a father who
Yeah.
had all these stories, get to see all these, was there ever any like? I'm assuming it was very accepted that you chose this path.
Yeah, I mean, it was encouraged. They bought me my first drum kit, and I'd started playing guitar a year or two before that. So I was showing interest in that direction. My brother as well played guitar and played in bands. My sister, was in theater and studied theater. They built a stage in the basement, so we had a stage growing up in the basement to put on shows. So yes, it was. They weren't. It wasn't so much like. I don't think they were like stage parents that were trying to create, this thing, but they just set up a very creative vibe. And the basement, is our playroom, and there's little, Muppets drum kit there. And yeah, so, and then, yeah, they bought me my first kit, and yeah, so it was always there. But, I think they were a little bit concerned at the beginning, because when I started playing in bands in high school, my father would notice that my grades, when I'd have a show coming up, because we'd be organizing the shows ourselves, it's all DIY.
Yeah. So
there was a lot of, you had to book the room, you had to do the thing, get the PA, and my attention was just focused on that. And so my grades in that term, if I had a show in November, the grades would go down, and then after high school, kind of wandering, not really going to college, dropping out constantly. So there was a few years, I think, where they felt like it was probably touch and go, but it wasn't that long after that age period where, I started touring with Death Room Above. So
yeah,
it helps when you're on the cover of a local newspaper, the entertainment section, that usually satisfies the parents a little bit,
When you guys first took off, what did that feeling feel like to you?
Well, it's hard to remember, but I'm sure I took it for granted. It was my first experience, really. I mean, I had a high school band. I never really recorded. I mean, I recorded, but I never really put anything out. I didn't have any records. Jesse had a bunch of records out, like on punk labels and stuff, and so he was kind of in that mode of record making since he was in high school, and so the first recordings we made that we put out on label, those were the first things that ever went out. So because it was my first experience with it, I was just like, oh, this makes sense. Yeah, you make a band that you think sounds cool, and then you put out a record, and then people like it. Oh, then people, then the record sells out, and then oh, all of a sudden, yeah, of course, people want to meet you in New York and talk about putting out another record, and it all kind of. I was like, oh, this just makes sense. It all lines up,
That's how it happened.
And it wasn't until we, I broke up the band and tried to do it again. I was like, wait a second. It's not always so easy.
Yeah.
Bernie, why didn't you tell me?
Uh, man, DFA is super. I mean, high energy is, for lack of a better term. Is that what you had in mind for that? I mean, where did you come from, influences wise, for DFA?
DFA was the first band that I sang in. And I was singing and playing drums. So it was it's a strange consuming role that I play in the band. And there's not much else I can do than just do what it is. So that sounds vague, but it's like I'm so busy doing the thing, like singing and playing drums and like making sure that that's all working out, that I'm not really like, sometimes Jesse will be, even in sound check, he'll change something on his pedal. He'd be like, how does that sound? Like, I have no idea, no clue. Like, I'm busy, bro. Like, I've got stuff going on over here. So however the band is perceived, it's similarly, I'm not really connected to the perception of the band, even on a live, in a live sense, because I'm just like, I'm so preoccupied up there and in my own zone. And hopefully, I mean, when I start to leave that place of like fully being consumed by it, that's when things go wrong. It's like when I start thinking about, my groceries or whatever, it's like, or whatever, you do something, you drop a stick or something happens where you mess up, or you go for a note singing wise and you don't quite make it, so you go under it, and then that, if you're in the wrong headspace, that can kind of like eat at you until I'm just not even in the moment anymore. I'm completely like, preoccupied with some weird technical thing that I should just be completely lost, and that's the goal, is to be totally lost, right? So yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys, I don't know if you intended on starting what you did, but was it always like, it's just going to be the two of us? Or did you have this idea of like, well, maybe another guy will join after we record the album?
Yeah, well, the first 3 songs, I think, were demos that Jesse had recorded. He started writing them literally on 9/11, like the 9/11. And then recorded them not long after that week or the week after, on his little 4-track or 8-track. And then he played them for me in his car. We lived together, but I was like, whatever. I was kind of going to art school at the time. So then he was like, oh, I made these demos. And his idea was that he would record these very basic drums and bass songs and get a drummer and a bass player, and him and I would be lead guitar players because we both enjoyed playing guitar. So we would have these crazy guitar parts over this very basic drum and bass music. And then we would get this other guy, I think his name was Conan, who was like a very cool looking guy. He looked like Gary Newman, but he didn't know who Gary Newman was, like classic Gary Newman, and we were going to get that guy to sing, and it was going to be called The Gift. Like, it was all planned out. Jesse had it all in his mind. And then he played me these demos in his car, and I thought, I don't know, man, this sounds like enough. Like, it already sounds like music. It doesn't sound like it needs anything else. Like, the bass parts were so melodic and implied so much more, and the sound was so full. It just was like, there's no room for anything else.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe we can put some like words on top of this, some singing. and then I started, actually we had a friend of ours who later played in my solo band as a drummer, Leon. He came over and jammed with Jesse. So Jesse was playing bass and he was drumming, and then I sat up in the living room, with floors, this thick, and just kind of sang out loud, and I was trying to sing low. It's like, oh, I don't think you'll hear me if I sing low. So I sang the octave above. It's like, I can kind of do that. I don't know. It might be a little bit difficult. And then I was just kind of like writing down lyrics and thinking melodic ideas. And then Leon left to catch the streetcar home. And then I went downstairs and sat on the kit, and like Jesse started playing and I started playing along and then singing along the parts I'd written. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I can do that. I can play and sing, and I can hear my voice over his bass and the drums. Like it just kind of clicked in that afternoon. And then we were the only guys home. We played in another band called Femme Fatale, which was like a 7-piece hardcore guitar orchestra that this like sounded like a plane crash. Um, and so from going from that to this, which was just two guys, was refreshing and it was easy. You know, we could just go down to the basement and rehearse. We lived together, and then we had a tour booked for our 7-piece band, but we couldn't afford to move everybody and move all the gear. It was impossible. We couldn't rent a van. I tried to, you know, I called a rental place, like going to be like $1,200. I was like, we don't $1,200, like $100 I don't have. Like I had 12 of them. That's insane. So we did it as a 2-piece in his car, just in his like whatever, his Honda Accord. We just drove down to New York and played these shows. So it was really circumstantial. Everything was just circumstantial.
How do you decide when a song is done?
In the early days, like after 2 minutes, like if there was 2 minutes of music, like if you listen to the first EP, there's no choruses really. It's just like a part, another part, another part, and then it's over. We wouldn't really repeat parts. And then we got, you know, when people started paying attention, we're like, maybe we should do a chorus, maybe a pre-chorus. But I don't know. I'm pretty traditional with like in the compositionally. I think there's musically what we're doing is interesting enough. Just the format of it is interesting enough that I've you know, I like songs that have, you know, verses and choruses and bridges and so yeah, I'm usually composing in that way. You know, Jesse and I will figure out some parts. I'm like, okay, what sounds like the chorus? That sounds like that lifts. We'll do that, and then, you know, so it's done when, you know, I don't know. It's done when it's done. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Technically, like in a recording sense, I mean, a mix, you abandon a mix. You never finish it. You just abandon it because of some external reason, like someone tells you that they need the mix and you go, okay, it's done, you know?
I'll tell this story because I still tell this story to this day, that I saw you guys for the first time in Coachella.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of your first big shows after you guys got back together.
Yes.
And the band I was touring with, was playing after you guys. And I remember you guys playing and me at the side of the stage just prepping for our set and thinking, holy shit, who is this band? Like,
yeah.
And I ended up watching your entire set. And fast forward to 2014, and I get a call from Tim Craven, and he's like, hey, I just got offered this tour. They need a backline guy. Do you want to do it? This is the name of the band. And I go, well, let me look them up. And I looked it up, and all the footage that came up was the Coachella footage.
Yeah.
Wow, this is that band.
Footage of yourself going, what the hell is this?
No, I remember just thinking, like, God, I'd never heard you guys. And I was introduced to you guys. And then fast forward to maybe being out on the road for a year, your wife came out. She had just released a documentary about the band. And I was in the documentary, like in the background.
Yeah.
And I remember her telling me one night we were sitting on the bus, and she goes, I actually asked Seb if we should find you because you appear so much in that movie.
That's funny. Yeah.
So I'm still waiting to check.
Yeah. Well, so am I. So am I, Bernie.
But no. So I always thought I always thought we were destined to meet. Seb.
Yeah.
I came into rehearsals in Toronto. I remember how cool you guys were to me, and I thought, all right, I'm going to be okay here.
Yeah. We were okay.
I'm in good hands with these guys. And then 1 year and a bus wreck later.
Yeah, no kidding.
That was crazy.
Was that your only one? That was my only one. Only bus wreck.
That's the only bus crash that it wasn't even a crash. But
no. It was a fender bender, but it was tense.
It was a fender bender, and I remember Mitch screaming, the pickles, because he had bad eating pickles.
Oh, did he puke them up?
Yeah. I don't think so. They were all over the floor.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we had a minor bus crash. We were driving up towards Minneapolis, I think.
Yeah, well, we were in Boise, I think.
or
Yeah.
Boise, yeah. And it was a snowy night, icy road, and a car had broken down or had an accident in the middle of the highway, and there was a family like exiting the vehicle, and our bus driver saw it, and he swerved onto the shoulder and braked, and there was another truck, like a flatbed in front of us, and we kind of like braked and then slow, braking, and then smashed into that
Yeah.
flatbed, and banged up the front of the bus, and the door was hanging off, but no one perished, which is great. That family was spared. And then the rest of the drive, someone had to hold the door shut.
Tim held it shut with his
Yeah,
belt.
yeah, with his belt.
But
And then yeah,
we made it
go
to the
ahead.
show.
Made it to the show, yeah. And it was actually a beautiful tour bus. I don't think we've ever had a better one than that one. And it was brand new and immaculate. And then it got replaced with a real cowboy bus after that.
Yeah.
So
It's fun times, man.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's a normal non-musical thing that you bring on tour just to stay human?
Non-musical thing I bring on tour to stay human. Uh, I like to bring photos of my daughter, my wife and daughter, I like to put those up, have them there to remind me why I'm out there. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of keep to myself on tour a lot, just because of what I have to do, the singing and the drumming. I over the years I've become very aware of my voice and keeping it rested. And so the worst thing for singers is like hanging out and making stupid voices, impersonating people, talking in loud bars, yapping until 2 a.m. about some record in the front lounge. So I discovered that that's when I would have a bad show vocally, was a night that I was probably hanging out in a bar trying to like talk about something with someone over a DJ playing or music. And so I just cut that out completely. So on tour, I usually sleep in the back lounge, and kind of treat that as my bedroom and office and somewhere to warm up. And so I spend a lot of time back there. We play the show, and I don't drink on show nights. I'll go back there and just like watch some movies, watch David Lynch movies over and over. And sometimes I'll draw, sometimes I'll write. But yeah.
Is that different from when you first started?
Yeah, when we first started, we were in a van, and I was drinking every night and impersonating Arnold Schwarzenegger as much as I could. And the next day, like, how come I can't sing? Was it because I was going, it's not a tumor, like till 4 a.m. Yeah, I become very, very aware of that. So yeah, I'm a bit of a stick in the mud on tour. I don't know if you remember that, Bernie.
I do remember you being in the back lounge, but I do remember you hanging out.
Yeah, there's a bit of hanging out.
Yeah, we did a lot of shows in a row on that tour, so it wasn't really.
Yeah. I don't know. I usually we were only doing 3 in a row for a number of years. I was just like, I don't want to do the fourth. Like, I need the day off after the fourth.
Yeah.
And then the past 2 years or so, I've been like much more comfortable singing on stage. It's been incremental, but it was like the past few years where I'm like, yeah, let's do the fourth. We did actually, what happened was we had a show booked in, I forget what, it was like Madison. It was some weird, I don't know. It was some weird, we were starting a tour, and we had a show booked in some kind of B market American town. Mm-hmm. And as the show is getting closer, like, we realized that this venue wasn't even like done. Like, it was a new venue, and the promoter was new, and they offered us this cash to play, and it kind of tied the first part of the tour together anyway. So, and we're looking at the show, and it's like, I don't know, these promoters are not getting back to us. Ticket sales are super low. And then we're looking at it, it's like, oh, the venue is not even ready. It's not even open for business. Like, it didn't exist. Like, the photos on the website for the venue were literally just like renderings of like, what a club could look like, like 3D renderings. And so the show wasn't going to happen. We had to cancel it. But we needed a show that day, so our booking agent looked, and there's this town in Ontario called St. Catharines, and this little venue there offered us a show, but it was like half the money, and then we looked at it again, and our agent was like, well, we could do a matinee, like we could do 2 shows that day. You could play like at 7, and then you could play again at 9, do 2 shows in a night. And then that way we play 2 shows. We get fill 2 rooms, and you get the same guarantee that you had at the other thing. And it'd be fun. I was like, yeah, that'd be fun. I'd love to do that. Except I'm 45 years old, like maybe that's not such a good idea. And then we did it, and it was awesome. And then we had a show the next day. I was like singing great. I was like, oh, okay, well, we could do that. That's fine. And then we started tacking on a 4th show sometimes, when it's kind of required with the routing. And as long as I'm just like taking it easy and not being an idiot, it's fun,
Yeah.
They're going to start to want to add the 5th though now. So
your other band, American Lips, just put out On Strike, and you mixed this record.
Uh-huh.
How is mixing different from your other jobs, all your hats that you wear?
Yeah, well, I kind of co-produced this record as well, and so it's not as much. I have mixed records before. I have a friend of mine, Sam Goldberg. He plays in Broken Social Scene, guitar player, and he has a solo project called Sam Jr. It's kind of a psychedelic music, and that was a mixed job where he sent me all the tracks, and they were done, and then I was just mixing them, just balancing and treating everything. The American Lips record, they're basically my friend Adrian's demos in Montreal, and him and his wife work on them, and then he sends them to me, and I kind of pick what songs I want to play on a little bit, or the songs that excite me, and then I'll play drums on them, and then send them back to him, and he might add stuff to it, and then we kind of pass it back and forth for a little while. He lives in Montreal, and I was living out in the country in Ontario, and then I'm back here in LA, but we pass it back and forth. And then at a certain point, the music is done, and then I'll just work on it. But I've been kind of massaging the mix the whole way through. And then by the time it's like mix time, it's kind of almost all the way there. And it's just kind of some technical stuff. So yeah, I find it, I'm not sure if it's like a field I would want to go into professionally, like in the sense of being commissioned to do those jobs, because I find it hard to just like, I don't know. I have to be very invested in the project, I think, because I'm not like a technical wizard or anything. I vibe it out. I do have obviously some technical skills, but it's a lot of just like enjoying and processing in a way that makes me excited. And so I would have to really be into the music, to do it. So I don't know if I would like pursue it as a career path. But I enjoy doing it with my own music. I did the last Death from Above record as well. So yeah.
Well, the last American Lips album came out in 2017.
17 or 18, yeah.
What took so long?
What took so long? Yeah, well, it's my friend, mainly my friend's project. It's Adrian's. It's his kind of like creative outlet. He's a producer and engineer in Montreal, and he's pretty busy in that regard. And it's really his way. He played in a great band in the 90s and 2000s called Tricky Woo, who I saw in Montreal in 99, and they blew me away. And we later became friends and worked together, and he worked on my solo records. And so we've been working together in kind of a collaborative musical production technical sense for a long time. And he when we moved when my wife, when Eve and I moved to Los Angeles, it was the year that Jesse and I were making The Physical World, our follow-up Death from Above record, just shortly before we met you. Um, and Adrian started sending me demos for things he was working on at home. And I loved them. I thought they were so great. And then eventually he asked me to participate in it, but it was like a couple of years after that. And we made that first record. And I don't, I'm not the instigator or the motivator in that band in any way. I'm just like the closer, like I help him seal the deal, And so I just wait until he's ready. And we'd done one release in between. We did a single in 2022, which actually Simon LeBon, your colleague in Duran Duran, he played it on his your coworker. Yeah, he played it on his Sirius XM show, and it got a little attention at Sirius in Canada as well, on The Verge, and it became this like secret little earning like single. It was like we made this first record, which people liked, but it was more of like a calling card, like here's something we can do, and we enjoyed it. And it was also part of Adrian and I starting a record label together, which later we put out a reissue of a Death from Above record and stuff. So that was the kind of purpose. It was like to kick off this label, and then this single we did was being played a lot at Satellite. So we're basically like an unknown band. It's like not a lot of people know about it. It's not like widely streamed or anything, but it got some traction at Satellite, strangely, and so it motivated us, to go like, okay, people are playing this stuff. Sometimes it's hard. You don't want to. It's hard to create in a vacuum. It's hard to, even though as creative people we're constantly creating and we always want to make something. Regardless of who is listening. I would be doing it anyway if people weren't listening. But certainly, with rock and roll music is presentational. It's something to be consumed by people. It's about revelry and participation. And so rock and roll in a void is just to me it's it doesn't make any sense. And so knowing that there was some energy around it made it, I think for Adrian especially, made it exciting for him to keep demoing. It motivated him to keep demoing. So he made this whack of demos, and he was sending them back and forth with me. I was like, I thought he could just put them out on their own. And then he sent me this record, this punk record by a German band named Piss, Pisse, which it's always fun to talk about when people are like, who are you listening to these days? I'm like, Piss. Or I keep mentioning it to my wife. I'm like, man, this band Piss is can you stop talking about this band Piss? Anyway, Piss with an E. There's another band with no E, and I don't think they're that great. Anyway, but he sent me this record, and it was so interesting sounding and so cool. And like I was drawn in instantly to the production and the arrangements. And it reminded me that that records can sound like anything. Like they don't need to sound like one thing, like just because the Foo Fighters are the only rock band that sell records doesn't mean like records have to sound like the Foo Fighters. Yeah. Thankfully, with all due respect. But that record motivated me I was like, oh man, send me more, send me your demos and we'll see. Let's see if there's a record here. And so in a very short period of time, we just selected the songs and pushed them up the hill. And then by the end of the year, we had a record done. So yeah. Before the end of the year, because now I've
been listening to it for the last week, and it's a really cool record. I noticed that all but one song are around 2 minutes.
That makes sense. Yeah.
There's one that goes for about 4 minutes. Yeah,
the last song is kind of like a raga. It's just like kind of dirgy, repeating the same part over and over. Yeah. Short and sweet. Don't bore us, get us to the chorus, and then second verse same as the first, and add a tambourine and get out of there. Yeah.
Do you guys plan on doing any live shows pretty soon, or?
We're going to play in Montreal in February, which I don't I wouldn't recommend, but we're going to do it anyway. It's it'll be quite snowy and quite icy, but we're going to do it. Yeah. Just a few shows, it's more of a recording project. Just because, like I said, it's like, yeah, if there's rock and roll's for people, so if people aren't like begging us to come to their town, you don't want to show up and play in front of 7 people. I don't know. I don't, not at 46.
It's funny you say that Montreal in February, because I was looking back at the dates I did with you guys, and we did places like Saskatoon and Winnipeg in January.
Yes, we did.
And
yeah. It's a recipe for a bus crash, is what that is.
Ironically, there was no bus crash on that one. It was a great tour. I remember.
Yeah.
Going through some really beautiful places on the way to other places.
Yeah, definitely.
How are you splitting are you going to be able to split the time between DFA and American Lip?
Yeah, it's, I mean, the American Lips thing was, it's, like I said, it's primarily a recording project, and that part of it's done. So now it's just kind of, flogging the record online and trying to get people to listen to it. And then we're going to do a couple of shows, but actually Adrian from American Lips is going to help produce the new DFA material. So, we'll still be involved together. Yeah. We have him and I have a very enthusiastic working relationship, where he's actually one of the guys that, when I'm demoing for DFA or whatever else, he's the first person I send music to for feedback. So yeah, it made sense. And we did a little bit of work with him. Jesse and I did a little bit of work with him last year, the year before, went up and recorded his studio. I kind of as a vibe check. So I knew that I wanted to work with him on whatever we do next in a LP sense. So I just wanted to get us all in the room together, and it worked out great. So yeah, that's going to be the next thing we do.
Right on.
Cool. Is there any special gear you can't live without?
Special gear. I'm not a gear nerd. I do like gear. I have a nice little recording setup. But I'm pretty unfussy, I'm fussy. I'm not fussy. I get people. I'm sure that Bernie see me be fussy about something, but it's not like I have to have this kind of drum kit and this kind of snare drum and these kind of cymbals. It's like, yeah, I like my stuff, but if we're backlining or renting stuff, it's like, does it work? Can I do the thing that I do without it being too distracting? And then that's pretty much fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have a good answer to that.
You're not very fussy about gear. I've seen you in situations where you've had to create stands for the SVD, or
Yeah.
Me watching from afar going, oh, how did you do that?
Yeah. I think that our band has always been so, Jesse's always been so particular with his rig and his setup, because it really does act as the third member of the band, is that very, big, loud, broad sound. And for many years he had, he still has the same cabs, but for many years he had the same heads that we started with, this big, heavy PV Super Festival series, and this little acoustic amp. It's not that little, but smaller than the PV. And so he's very particular about having those. So we would always have to fly these massive, super heavy heads, just so that he could get the sound, the right sound. There's a certain feedback he gets that he needs to have. It's a part in one of the songs. So it's we were always so focused on his sound being right, that it's I didn't care. It's as long as there's some drums and a microphone, I'll make it work,
Yeah. His gear was very particular. I remember having to line check it and doing the feedback thing to make sure and the crowd losing their mind, just me doing
Yeah. Yeah. It's a signature sound. It's cool. I mean, not every band has a sound that you can make where everyone goes yeah. It's I'm not comparing him to Eddie Van Halen, but it's if you went up and just backline guitar tech goes up and just like does a little tapping, like people are like, yeah, it works.
The fingers work. Hey, what would you be doing if you weren't making music, man?
That's the eternal question. I would probably, I like to think I'd be still in a creative field, either, film world or something like that, or cooking, chef stuff, restaurant worlds, or I don't know, carpentry, like our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I don't know. Like I do like, I like working with my hands. I like building things. I like taking things apart. I like figuring things out. I like, very focused kind of engineering tasks. I'm not very academic, so any kind of field that would take a lot of education probably would have worked out for me. But something, uh, laborious but satisfying I would have done. Um, if not just like, hipster restaurant chef. Yeah.
Cool.
You wouldn't be a barista, would you?
I don't think so. Yeah, probably not that. No, the baristas are, snobs. I would have to be like a kitchen fascist. I think I would have to be, just like kitchen dictator.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's coming up next for you? Are you going to be writing more, touring, or something else?
Yeah. We're currently writing Death from Above songs, at least the early stages of that. But the idea is to make something we've threatened to make our entire career, which is a fast, dirty record. Not necessarily every song is fast, but that'd be good too. But just a record that doesn't take very much time to make. I find I get totally spun out on record making, and I get kind of precious and protective with it. The last record we made, we did maybe 4 or 5 weeks together. I rented a little studio in Los Angeles, and we hunkered down together. Jesse flew down, and we made music every day for 4 or 5 weeks, and kind of made them into shapes of songs. And then he went away, and then I worked for a year on turning it into a record. And but I kind of like hoarded it. I was like, I wasn't showing him any. I was like, one day you will see, and that was fine, and I liked the results of it, and I enjoyed doing it, but it's too long to work on. I just frankly, I don't want to spend my life like alone in a room doing that kind of thing. So I liked doing it to kind of prove to myself that I could do it. But I'd like to do it in a way that I'm less involved technically, and more involved creatively, and I want it to be done in a kind of burst, hopefully. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Man. Well, I want to go back to something you said earlier. When you guys had to do the 2 shows in one day at the same venue, and be like, hey, it was fun, but no, I can't do that every night.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember on this tour, I keep going back to this tour with you because it was really one of the highlights of my life, watching you guys every night, regardless of what you think. I loved watching you guys. But I remember on this Canadian tour, we showed up to the venue and it had just shuttered. And the kids were like, we know a place down the road, like around.
Yeah.
And so we went to this small venue and set up, and then the power kept going off.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was in Peterborough, Ontario. We just played there recently. I think we played at the venue we were supposed to play at, but it was in the winter. It was during an ice storm, and we showed up to the venue, and there was tons of snow on the road. And I was in the lounge, but Tim and others just like had to shovel their way into the venue. And then they got into the venue, and the power was totally out in the venue. Like that block had lost power. And so we were going to have to cancel the show. And yeah, they were like, oh, we can just play at this. There's a club down the street, which is tiny, tiny little bar. I played there before in other acts. Um, but yeah, we were playing with the band Mets. Band Mets from Toronto were opening for us, who were also like amazing, very loud power trio. And yeah, so we just moved down the road and loaded into this tiny little venue and played. And yes, the power was going. I don't know if it went out during. I think it went out maybe once during our set, but I remember being in the basement before we played and listening to Mets, and then like all of a sudden, just the PA cut out, and thinking, "Oh, geez, okay, yeah." But any stage will do.
Yeah. So you've done a lot of shows like that, a lot of Spinal Tap moments.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be able to pivot. The cool thing about our band, I think, is that we can do. At this point, we can do both, like the big stages and the small stages. We have played in arenas and like huge festivals, and we also can be a bar band. So it can translate either way. So I feel lucky. We do. Yeah, technically, I feel lucky that we can do that. We can scale at any given point, and I mean, rock and roll is, it's like this anyway. It's like sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're not, and like and for to be kind of like above playing a bar venue, you'd be missing out on so many vibes, and also you would get resentful and your career would be short. It's like, I think it's cool that like 3 years ago we played this tiny bar in Memphis, and like and then you go back to a place and you play the theater, and you play in front of 200 people one time, you play in front of 8 or 1,600 the next. It's like, it's cool. I love that.
Yeah.
For those people, it's the coolest. It's like
I mean,
McCartney
yeah.
played a really tiny show. I didn't get to go, but I mean, for those people, it was probably
we played. He played at Pappy and Harriet's in Joshua, Pioneer Town near Joshua Tree, which is a tiny. We just played there last year, the year before. Same stage. It's a barbecue joint in Pioneer Town, and that's the same stage that Paul McCartney played at. So yeah,
right on, man.
Super vibes.
Well, brother, I do appreciate you doing this, man. Taking the time.
Yeah, man, no problem. It's great to see you.
It's been great talking to you, seeing you, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, and nice to meet you, Lisa, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to meet you too.
Is there anything else going on, man, that you want to talk about, like other than DFA and American Lips?
Yeah, I mean, my wife Eva, who you met, she this is kind of an addendum to the film that she made. She used to take our picture like right at the beginning, basically. She was just like a teenage like show photographer, basically, and she was so chill when we first met her. And she would hang out, take our photos. She'd come to the house, take our photos. When we were rehearsing, when we were recording, and then she came on tour with us. This is like years and years before her and I were anything. She came and photographed us on a very early DFA tour, and was kind of like she's been the constant like documentarian of the band. Just from being there, and then we were a couple years later, and then got married and stuff. So she's just been around, and she had this great archive of photos, through the years. And she used to publish a magazine, and she kind of missed having a thing come out, like a physical thing. She makes films and commercials and videos and stuff, and she missed having a physical medium. And so she started a printing imprint this year, and her first project is a cloth bound photo book of DFA photos, but like the earliest days, like 2001 to 2003, kind of before our first record came out. So it's a really nice time capsule of that period, not just for the band, but like just the vibes,
Yeah,
like the vibes, like there's like this whole indie sleaze resurgence now, this sort of that early knots nostalgia thing that's happening. And this like nails that. And it's a beautiful book, it's a beautiful thing. So she's putting that out. It's called I'm a Woman, You're a Machine. So it's the flip side of our first record is You're a Woman, I'm a Machine. Anyway, so yeah, she flipped that around and made this great book, which is the story of the band ascending, but also like you could tell that her camera was like focused on me a little bit more. And, like, and then by the end of the book, she's like, and then we got married, So
yeah.
Aww.
And when will that come out? Is it out yet?
It's going to come out very soon. Yeah, it's going to be there'll be a website and a way to buy it. Initially, just through her own site, and then eventually we'll probably have them like at merch and stuff. But they're so nice. They're like you don't want to drop them. It's like it's the kind of thing that you buy and you put it in your bag and you go to your car. So yeah, but it's great.
To that, man.
Yeah, I'll send you a link when it's available.
Buddy, our podcast is called Is Breakfast Included? And if we were having breakfast, what would you have?
I would probably go for 2 eggs over medium, white toast, butter, sausage, and maybe a side of fruit, maybe a side of cottage cheese. But just like, your simple diner breakfast, leave 3 eggs and you eat them each on 1/2 piece of toast. And then you leave one final piece of toast for jam at the end. That's your dessert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And coffee, tea, anything like that?
Coffee. Yeah. Coffee. Yeah. And don't top me up too many times because I got my ratio just right.
Okay.
Like nothing worse than like having the perfect ratio of cream, milk, and sugar. So cream, coffee, and sugar, and then they come and just pour and they just pollute the mug.
My husband is the same way.
Yeah,
he hates it.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you're up here like the Queen's Gambit trying to figure it out. Like,
how do you do it? Yeah. I stopped at I was doing some driving a little while ago, and I stopped in a McDonald's to get a coffee. I was just like, okay, all I want is a small coffee, and I want 1 cream and 1 sugar. And it's like that will be the perfect. I don't usually drink sugar in my coffee, but like I needed to get somewhere, and I was like, this is the exact thing I want, and like the exact amount and the exact ratio. And I got to the window and they're like, here you go. I gave you a medium instead. I was like, you want to be like, thank you, because they did you a favor, but like you actually messed up my whole day. I was just driving, be like, ugh, it's terrible. It's terrible. How dare they?
Right on.
That's great.
Well, Seb, man, thank you so much.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I never take the second donut when they're like, oh, it's 2 for 1. I'm like, I only want 1. Get out of here. Like, I don't like the favors. I've got my ratios. They're all set up in my mind.
I always take the second donut. And the third and fourth. Okay. So.
Niche, Bernie. Very bad.
Oh man, it was good talking to you. It's good seeing you, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, great to talk to you. Yeah, likewise. I hope to see you out there.
Right on. Sebastien Grainger. Man, it was so much fun catching up with my old friend. He's one of the nicest guys in the business. And when I say that, I mean it. I know I say it a lot, but I try not to align myself with butt heads. I try. Sometimes you cross them. Check out DFA 1979 on Instagram. See what's going on with them. You can also check out American Lips on Instagram. That's American Lips with 3 S's, but spelled just like it sounds. Check out the new album On Strike. You can find it on all streaming platforms right now. And while you're online, head on over to isbreakfast.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts. And then head on over to YouTube. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And then pick up some swag, man. It's almost that time of the year, where you got to buy somebody something. I want to thank Seb for taking the time to talk to me and Lisa. We had a great time. I'm done. Have a great day. Talk to you next time.